Good afternoon, Commissioners. If we will come to order, we'll begin our monthly Anderson County Commission Budget Committee meeting for Thursday, September 7, 2023, 4 o'clock. Director Holbrook, if you would call the roll, please.
Commissioner Beauchamp.
Here.
Commissioner Foster is absent. Commissioner Smallridge.
Here.
Commissioner Vandegrift.
Here.
Commissioner Wandell.
Here.
Commissioner Wells. Here. Commissioner White.
Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. If you would, please join me in prayer, and we will ask Commissioner Wells if he would to lead us in the pledge. Heavenly Father, we come to you again today to give you honor and praise and to thank you for being so good to us, for sending your Son to die for us. Lord, for everything you've added unto us after that. Please forgive us of our sins. Forgive us, Lord, for times that we're selfish, times that we want for us, Lord, more than we want for others. Make us worthy, Father, to conduct this meeting today. Give us your wisdom, your discernment. Lord, put it in our minds and our hearts to do what's right for your people. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. First item on the agenda is the cash and fund balance report. Director Holbrook.
Okay. Still unaudited. I just want to make that point. And since I emailed you all this cash and fund balance report, we found a little mistake in the schools, which I have their fund balance on this page is $13,042,243, and their fund balance is, as of today, is $10,025,260. And you asked me how that changed $3 million. But the sale of the Claxton School, we had an open PO from last year to that, but when we did it, we did a CD, and so we had to even get local government on the phone to make a lot of changes that affected the. It was when we canceled that PO, it put $3 million in the fund balance, which they really had spent. So anyway, that's why until we're audited, these things can change a lot. But the general fund unassigned fund balances is $10,804,752. Total fund balance $17,668,333,000. Cash $16,016,886. But like I said, it's unaudited and probably won't be closed until October, November.
Dr. Smalley.
Yeah, Robbie, offhand, do you remember what the number was for the unassigned fund balance last year?
At this time last year?
Yes.
8 million, maybe 7 or 8. I don't remember, honestly.
But it's definitely up by a couple.
It's up, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions on the cash and fund balance report? Moving on.
Okay, sales tax, 6% increase in July, $4,009,180. The counties was down about 30,000, so really not a huge loss there. But sales tax is showing a 5 to 6% increase every month compared to last year at this time. So that's good news on the sales tax. Any questions for sales tax? Okay, and ARPA projects, we added the, last month there was 3 projects approved. The fire department, rescue squad equipment, $550,000. The AED, EMS AEDs, up to $275,318, and the Claxton area repeater that was $13,475.23. Revenue loss, there's still $1,544,305 available. Other eligibilities, $1,767,769 for a total of $3.3 million. Any
Any
questions?
questions on the ARP projects or the current funding? Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Robbie, are we looking at 3.3 as available?
That's available, yes, sir.
That's okay. All right.
1.5 in revenue loss, which is less restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
The stricter stricter restrictions, or the one with the most restrictions is the other eligibilities, which has 1,776,769.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions? One comment, commissioners, and just for consideration, and Commissioner Palmer's in the audience this afternoon. We have been planning the strategic development workshop. Is that what it's called, Commissioner Palmer? Strategic planning, to try to get, I guess, a better bead on priorities that we have as a county government. Obviously, any priority that comes up requires money in order to bring it to fruition. Would the Budget Committee want to consider waiting until that meeting is conducted, that workshop is conducted, and we actually are able to prioritize before we spend any more out of these ARP funds, or is that something the Budget Committee even wants to discuss at this time? Just a thought.
And the workshop's next month, it's just next month.
I guess it depends on what comes up between now and October budget meeting.
Well, there's a couple things on this agenda for
Mm-hmm.
requests.
That's why I was bringing it up now, knowing that,
Yeah.
having that on our minds as we're moving forward. And certainly each item that's on the agenda is important to the ones that are bringing it to our attention. Just a thought, when we first got these funds, was it 2 years ago, Robbie, or a year and a half? We were slow in starting to spend it, so I thought, kind of thought it was gonna last a lot longer than what they did, but we've spent it on some worthwhile projects, so I guess that's why we're down to the 3.6 at this point. Any further comments on the ARP funding? Hearing none, moving on.
Okay. There are 3 transfers, 0, 1, and 2 for this month. Seeking approval as a group. I can answer any questions you might have.
Motion to approve as a group.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bochamp to approve items 0 through 2, seconded by Commissioner Wells. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 3 through 6 are from the school department. Most 3 of these are for are increasing revenue and increasing expenditures, and one is $18,314 from fund equity from fund balance.
Move for approval as a group.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve items 3 through 6 as a group. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bochamp. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wondell?
Thank you. On item 6, Robbie, it's 1.8 million, Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement. What can you tell me about those funds? Is that a grant that comes in that we
No.
use?
I think it's like the old BEP money, right?
Yeah, what it was, we knew it was going to be that, we just hadn't got the final numbers in. So what was in the budget was different from that. That's how much it changed from when we started getting our initial, the first estimates and everything. That was the last one that come in, and it didn't come in till after y'all had already passed the budgets.
So they changed the way they did BEP funding
Yeah.
to this TISA and so that's an additional
Oh,
funding for the schools.
So that's the TISA, I see.
Yeah.
Just spelled out all the way.
That's probably our first 3-page budget amendment.
Yeah.
So those funds, Dr. Parrott, they're always used typically, I guess, for the items that are listed here, for
Yeah, they were-
teachers and all that kind
They
of
were
stuff.
already, when we give the raise, that's part of the raise that was in there. It was already in there, we just didn't have it in the budget yet.
Thank you, Dr. Parrott. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, number 7, I'm sorry. It was from the Highway Department for $10,000 for signs from restricted for highway fund.
Motion to approve. Second.
Commissioner Bochamp moves to approve item number 7, seconded by Commissioner Vandegrift. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, the next budget amendment is an appropriation from EMA, Price Kidwell, for $16,000, a DOE grant, placing the funds in other supplies and materials.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Wandale moves to approve item number 8, seconded by Commissioner Wells. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 9 and 10 are from the library board. The first one is a grant increasing revenue, $1,842, and data processing equipment for training opportunities grant to purchase wireless access points for the library. And the second one is $1,000 for periodicals for the Clinton Library from their reserve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bochamp to approve items number 9 and 10, seconded by Commissioner Vandegrift. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
The next one is from the Tourism Department, Stephanie Wells, for increasing revenue, $51,730, and 302 advertising, $51,730 for an ARPA grant. And we have already had $32,671.45 in the budget, current budget this year, 23-24 budget, and this is the additional portion of the grant that is being put into the budget.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Bochamp moves to approve item number 11. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wandale.
Robbie, so the $51,730, is it a standalone ARP grant that comes into the tourism?
It is. So actually, it's like 80, the 51 plus the 32 is an 80. Well, it's actually the total that's on this page that Stephanie sent me is it's the 5-year grant, Stephanie, for $163,357. The $51,729.80 that has been put in the budget is for they can go back in the tourism department and claim salaries that they've already paid starting in 2021 up to $51,000. And then the next year, the 32 that was already in the budget is for salaries this year. Then they have to spend that money on transformational marketing products. So
And it is a separate ARPA from what the county received. It comes from the tourist department with the state. And so it's allocated for marketing.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank
and
you.
it has
Thank
no
you.
match. So
Yeah, there's no
Oh,
match.
that's great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
okay, 12 and 13 are from the mayor. The first one is for the senior center TCAD grant, $8,000 to purchase health-related educational materials, furniture, equipment, etc. And the second one is an ECA grant that we received the money last year, $50,000. They only spent $7,000 or $6,700. This places the $43,334 in the budget for this year to spend.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Wandale moves to approve items 12 and 13, seconded by Commissioner Bochamp. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, the next one, number 14, is, I'll just do these separate. 14 is the, and I apologize, I put insurance recovery on that. It's opioid funds. During the budget season, Commissioner McCamey made a motion to use $200,000 of the opioid funds to help with the EMS budget. I cannot do that budget amendment till this budget year, so this is moving the $200,000 from the general fund budget to transfers out, which will go into the EMS budget. So from the opioid funds, which had a balance, that revenue code, or that restricted code of $233,421. That's the smaller pot of money of the funds.
Mhm. Motion to approve item 14, is that all you're looking for right now, Robbie?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Second.
Commissioner Wandale moves to approve item number 14, seconded by Commissioner Bochamp. Any discussion?
And I included the minutes behind it that, from that meeting, commission meeting.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
So, every year in July, we pay the Tennessee Risk Management bills for workers' comp, insurance for the buildings, for the whole county. The general fund, the schools do the same. We get a 2% discount, which is quite a bit on a $1.2 million payment. But then the bill went up quite a bit this year, so I didn't budget enough money in the budget from all the funds to come out. So we're $87,494 short for our risk management bill that I will need to ask for from unassigned fund balance. And I did increase our budget this year, $25,000, but obviously that wasn't enough. But last year it was $1,094,000. This year $1,216,425 was our total bill, which was 11% increase. But I did ask HR, and we did have 60 workers' comp claims, which was up 22 from last year. And we had 11 claims for property vehicle, but if you remember, we also had the freeze, which caused a lot of flooding. I know the schools had the same issues. We had a lot of claims this year that were larger because of weather related and stuff.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Commissioner Smallridge to approve item number 15. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bochamp. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Well, another thing to consider too, I should have said, when salaries go up, like we give the percent raises, that also causes workers' comp to go up. So we've done some of those in the past few years, so. Anyway, next is the Section A is 2 grant approvals. One is for EMS for $52,918.20, no match for a first responder grant, which would replace all EMS automated external defibrillators and add some. And the second grant for approval is from the Highway Department, $200,000. It's called Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation. It's to plan and design a replacement for the bridge at Brooks Gap Road and help prevent the roadway from flooding. So we're just seeking approval to apply for these grants is all.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wandell to approve both grant applications, sir?
Yes, sir. EMS and highway.
Seconded by Commissioner Vandergriff. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Also, the next page, if you just look really quickly, I put a grant inventory list for y'all to look at and for commission to have also. This is what we turn over to audit. It shows you the current grants for 23, 24. And I thought it was a pretty good little spreadsheet, so I know Commissioner Smallridge had already asked to see this, and then I thought, well, I might as well get it to everybody, so it's good information. And we do have more grants than this. This is just the ones that have worked through our office.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Current year grants are of 12.4 million. Prior year grants, 10 million, so it's $22 million in the last 2 years in grant funds.
So most of them, oh, excuse me.
That's all right, go ahead.
So most of them are not matching, right?
Right. There's we have, yes, just a few are, but not many. Just like the 2 that approved today, where neither one were matching grants.
I agree, that is impressive.
Right.
So,
Our folks are writing some grants, obviously.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so Robbie, looking at this, roughly right at $1 million of matching funds for all those grants, is that for the last year, or is that?
That would be this year, correct?
That's, for the grant as a whole, so if the grant spans multiple years, that amount is just listed the total, match for that, so it's not for this specific, fiscal year, that's the total for that grant.
Thank you.
About $500,000 of it's from like years prior.
Yeah.
21 and 19, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, like the $379,514 matching, that's a 5-year grant.
That's the
So-
one you're talking about, Wells?
Yeah,
Yep.
that one, the one above it was
Yep.
for 2020 for 107,000.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
some of these are multiple years.
So $1 million out to get what in, roughly? 12, or what'd you say?
12 for this, 12.4 this year, so.
That's great.
I mean, we're not even putting $1 million out this year, that's $1 million over.
Right, that's,
The
yeah,
life
Commissioner
of the
Wells,
grant,
yep.
so.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Any further discussion on that? Department's doing a good job on that.
It's a good
Go
move to
ahead.
hire a grant coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item on the list is longevity pay. It was from the HR Advisory Committee. Just a couple of comments I have. The advisory committee, I'm a member of that committee, has been actually discussing a longevity plan for a year and a half or so. And in fact, when the sheriff put theirs in the budget this year and I received it, I actually asked him to pull his out because I said, well, we're working on one for the whole county, but he wanted to keep it in and that's fine, it passed. But this is a longevity plan for the rest of the employees in the county that mimics the sheriff's department. It's exactly the same, so even the part-time at $50 per employee per year, and the starting year one, in the county, full-time employees would receive $100 year one, up to 20 years, right? 20 years? Caps at 20 years for both. The total cost the first year for the general fund employees that are $162,900, part-time $9,000, so $171,900. The funding source would be unassigned fund balance because it is not in the budget, so that. And I think that was passed in HR advisory. The only no vote was Commissioner Wells. So
The only one that's not on salary by the county, so.
we pay you a little.
That's right, I take that back, that's right.
Anyway, I think the budget committee could, this is from the HR advisory, they're a committee that, the budget committee would have to approve this and then commission, obviously, but I think the budget committee can make changes to this, whatever. It's just, I'm just presenting this from that committee. I don't know if Ken has anything she would like to say, but,
Director Jeffers.
Or there's any questions? This includes a policy and the two spreadsheets you see for full-time and part-time.
Good afternoon. Robbie done a really good job kind of going over that. We've been talking about this for quite some time. I think the first time it was brought up was actually when COVID started, and we got with the city of Clinton, started having those conversations of what they were doing. I guess one thing I would point out is a longevity program is for tenured employees. It's simply to show your appreciation for all of those years of service that are given to the county. It's something that the HR Advisory Committee has talked about for over a year and a half now, going back and forth on what that would look like. And then once the SOs was approved, they decided at that point, we needed to make it match. We wanted it to be equal across the county. And so we come back and, because we were ready to bring it to you all, and when that happened, we went back again and they said, no, let's make it exactly the same. We don't want anything different. So that's what you're looking at today. The only difference, in the email I sent out, I noted that the only difference is that the sheriff's office pays out on the month of the anniversary, where this would pay out annually. So it would pay out like the first week of December is what the policy states. So by October 31st, you would have to meet that tenure mark to be able to receive that. So you would have to be employed at that time as well.
Commissioner Mander.
So I did have a quick question about that. So if I've read that correctly, it doesn't start until year 5?
So no, if you read the, what you're reading is the motion. So at the bottom of that paragraph, go up 4 lines, and the motion was made for the longevity plan to begin at year 1, as does the sheriff's office program. So what I had brought back, based upon what they had asked for, was a 5-year, start at 5-year. But because the other started at year 1, they wanted to go back and it started at year 1, so it would mirror that, and it would be on the same level.
Okay.
If you start before.
So I got to add another question. What is the turnover rate among county employees that would be affected by this?
So, well, what you're looking at right now, and I kind of talked with Robbie a bit about that today, what you're looking at year one right now is already less than that, because our turnover rate is high, as we all know. And so that is going to impact that. What you're looking at on years 1 and 2 is probably, it's the worst case scenario. That's assuming there's absolutely no turnover, no retirement, and we know that's not gonna happen. So what you're looking at 1 year and 2 is actually probably the highest liability risk that you would be looking at.
So would this be used as a recruiting tool?
Yes, yes, it's a recruiting and retaining tool as well,
Okay.
and an appreciation.
And this is in addition to the 14th holiday that we gave
Yes.
last, okay.
Commissioner Wood.
So before, I got a couple questions, a statement, but first, so when that comment was made just a few minutes ago about trying to match what the sheriff's department's done at year one, I want it to be clear in that meeting, Sheriff Barker wanted to spell out, don't try to put apples to apples with the sheriff's department. From a recruiting standpoint, those guys on day one are putting their lives on the line. This is a totally different animal. So I would want to preface that. Following up that question she had, and just in general, so it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the highest rate of your turnover is years 1 up until year 3 for staff
Yes, it's normally at year 2.
at year 2. And so after year 3, you see a lot more retention in your employees.
You see, not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Year 2, between year 2 and 3 is when we're seeing currently seeing the highest turnover.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess the reason I voted no on this originally, this was right after we just worked really hard to pass a budget and give, not only was it 7%, but then an additional 2% raise. Correct me if I'm wrong, so 9% raise,
Total 7.
total of 7.
5 yeah.
We went from 5 to 7. Okay. So it's almost seems we bent over backwards, tried to make it work and show good faith, and then less than a month later, we've got all of the department heads sitting around on a HR committee and one county commissioner, and they're all, yes, let's give longevity, let's give more money, and it's at what point do we draw the line? And again, I'm still going green on this. Correct me if I'm wrong. The sheriff put this into his budget. He made this work in his budget without asking for more. Is that
No.
an accurate statement? No?
He asked for a lot more.
Okay. All right.
1.6 million or more than.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I guess going back to where I'm at with this, this isn't something I would vote on or support today, but for discussion's sake, piggybacking off the question I had for you is, to me, a longevity plan is valuing the employees that have put the time and the effort in. For somebody to get a job on day one and already know, I'm gonna get $100 extra if I stay a year, that to me it's almost an insult to those employees that have been here, that have really fought through all this and are finally seeing the good times that the county's having to help out. So I definitely would not be in favor of that on year one. But again, the big headache, like Shelley just said, is we've worked hard to get an increase in the pay, and then we just did a 14th holiday. And correct me if I'm wrong, that extra holiday, each person's going to be making over $100 for that day off that they don't have to work. So I would want us to look at this a little bit more, go down the road and see if we started at year 3, if we started at year 5, or talking to a couple other department heads, as opposed to just giving everybody blanket longevity pay. Why don't we put faith in our department heads? If the mayor says, I've got staff that are working 5 times as hard as some of the other ones, let that department head have the discretion to give that money to their employees. They're the ones with the boots on the ground seeing what's happening. So I don't like this. And my wife's a big union supporter, but what's good for one doesn't necessarily mean all should deserve it. I kind of want to see this go to those folks that department heads think that deserve it the most. So that'd be my comments on it.
Commissioner Smalley.
I guess there's really no way to measure the impact of this. Is there, I mean, we're talking about $100 for a full-time employee.
50 for a part-time.
It's hard for me to see how, that's gonna make a difference to someone, but maybe it would to some people. But
I think we won't be able to measure that until it's in place. That might be when you see that difference in turnover and the difference in what you're also looking at is morale on what that may mean. But I don't know that you're going to be able to determine that. We would be guessing at what that would look like. So.
I guess I could see it more as you originally had it, starting at year 5, but anyway, that's all I have.
Any more discussion? Commissioner Bochamp?
I'm gonna make a motion. I think this
Okay.
is a good time that we make a motion, and I think this is a good idea to send to the Strategic Planning Committee. I think it needs to be discussed more in depth. I kind of mimic what Commissioner Wells is saying. If these department heads are for this, I think they need to put it in their budget. I think the people of the public need to see that that's what they wanna do with their employees, and it needs to reflect that, not just come out of the general fund or whatever. It needs to come out of their individual departments. So I think that this is something that we need to discuss, that we don't need to be sitting around for a budget meeting for 30 minutes and put it through. I think this is something, it's gonna be long-term for Anderson County employees, Anderson County taxpayers, and I think that the strategic planning is the perfect place to put that. So I'm gonna put that in a motion that we send it there.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bochamp to send the item section B to the strategic planning workshop that's upcoming October, what is it? October 26th? 26th? And 27th? Where's that gonna be, Denise? I'm sorry.
Well, we don't have the location
Okay.
secured yet,
Location to be determined.
but here, local.
Okay. That is seconded by Commissioner Wells. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White?
the motion's not a bad motion, but I think this is a good starting point. We have heard discussion on this for a year or so, and $100 is not much, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Whether we pass it today or whether it goes to a committee, I don't think $100 would keep me on the job or drive me away, either one, but this is a good starting point. Thank you.
Sir? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. Motion carries. Commissioner Palmer, are you the one adopting the agenda, writing the agenda for that workshop?
I just made a note. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
All right,
But I made a note.
I'll give
Alright.
you some more.
thank you. Next item.
Item C is the Health Department, the mayor with the Health Department request of $500,000 for ARPA funds for renovation of the Health Department. I've included her justification and a floor plan behind it, and I'm sure the mayor has some comments.
Which one are you on, Trent?
Mayor Frank?
Got a floor-
Okay,
floor plan.
when we first started the ARP discussions, we did host the very first meeting at the health department in order to do a walkthrough. The dental clinic needed some renovations at the front counter, and their lab is in there. They needed to do separation. What ended up happening is we actually received some grant funding from the state of Tennessee from their CARES Act, and then also their ARP. And they, you probably saw that on your list. There was about $349,000 for the health department. That's for some renovations, and then there's another amount that's on there. I think it's $227. That's for awning and renovations to one of the rooms for the health department. This is separate. If you're in, for those commissioners that haven't done a walkthrough, the dental clinic is actually kind of, it's not directly in the middle, but it's probably 60%. Would you say that's fair, Dr. Smallridge, located there? This opportunity to renovate the health department is also an opportunity to renovate the dental clinic and get it moved. They are separate operations. The health department is state and the dental clinic is county. This would allow, that separation would allow the dental clinic to have their own entrance. It would add another dental room. It would do
I guess, consolidate the health department instead of walking through the dental area, then all of their operations will be on one side of the building and the dental clinic will be completely separated. What we're looking at is a renovation of the space. So what is currently down there is some of the health department operations such as WIC. I don't know if you all have been in any of that space, but that is the area that would be renovated for the dental clinic. The total is 2,721 square feet of what is being proposed to be renovated. The low budget, and I don't have construction documents yet because I wanted to seek approval for funding first. But based on the initial architect's design, what we're looking at is 2,721 square feet. The low budget, we're looking at $125 a square foot, the high, $150 a square foot. So the range that we're looking at is, if you put in a 10% contingency based on what the bids come in at, $374,137 to $448,965,000. So I just put in 500,000, but you could lower that to 450 for that range. I have talked to the architect about where we are now with some of the construction costs. You are seeing some construction costs come down now. So not everything is coming down. You have some things that are still up there. Pavement is one of those that's still up. Concrete is still up. Some of them there's not a reason for, but a lot of those are coming down. So that's the range that we're looking at for that renovation.
I'll make a motion to approve up to 500,000 for the ARPA funds.
Second.
Commissioner Bochamp moves to approve item C, up to $500,000 of ARP funds, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Commissioner Wandale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, thanks for the outline. So this is in addition to what we've done today, is what you're saying?
Yes, so this
We've-
is just, this is separate from the health department. We're not allowed to use any of the state health department funds for anything related to the dental clinic. Completely separated.
It says, and you've said this, I think, but it says estimate of costs. What happens if we go over this estimate?
Well, I have a range, so that's why I put that's why I said 500,000. The range based on the number of square foot and what we're seeing right now in terms of bids is $374,137 to $448,965. So I felt like if something went wrong, you know, and they came in higher, 500 would be okay. Of course, we always watch those. When those bids come in, we're able to pull out, you know, what Catherine gets when she opens a bid is they have to put all their costs in there. And then we can put those on our own spreadsheet and see who's charging what. And we have rejected bids before. We've done that many times in solid waste and done better by rejecting them and going back out to bid, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Mayor, you did say you had a contingency, your estimate.
The estimate
Included
includes a 10% contingency, yes. And of course, just with anything, if it's lower, I'll come back to commission and Robbie and John will put the excess that's, you know, above and beyond the bid back into your ARP pot.
Commissioner Yeager.
Will the ARP fund being used going to come out of the more restrictive or the less restrictive part?
I would say less. Yeah.
Okay. We need to start spending some of the more restrictive to free up the less.
Commissioner Wells.
Is
there a time sensitivity on this? I mean, obviously, in today's business,
Well, so we have time sensitivity with the state's project, and this really, in order to be able to do the health department side, we need to be able to do the dental, we need to get the dental moved and do that as the phase one. So,
do they have a time frame on when they want to start the health department side?
I know that Charles has been chomping at the bit, and I have a meeting with him Monday morning. So, I told him, I said, give me time to see, you know, because if you all do not like this, don't want to do it, then I need to regroup and go back to the drawing board. I didn't want to start anything with the health department and Charles on what that side looks like unless we knew where we were going here.
Okay,
So.
so I guess I would add, Commissioner Val, I'm assuming this kind of piggybacks into what you said at the start of the meeting, as far as holding off on spending any more funds. So, from a neutral standpoint on this, not one way or the other on the subject, is it gonna put you in a pickle, for lack of a better term, if we wait, discuss this at our strategic workshop next month, and hopefully bring it in November?
I mean, you all, I view it as you all are the governing body. So if that's what your preference is, I'm fine with that. I do know the state is, they came, they visited with Charles on the health department side. I do know that they are kind of looking at what are you doing, where are you? And we have a few more requirements under their process than we have on the dental side. So they're actually using Ernst & Young, and it's, I know John has been part of that one interview. It's like we're being interviewed to run Wall Street. So in that regard, yes. I really would like to get this going so that I can get that other one done and meet all of their compliance rules.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White?
Mary, if you was going to the bank to borrow this money, how would you justify the need for this renovation?
How would I justify the need?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that's justifying the need for the dental clinic itself. They needed to do some remodeling. So to me, if it's my money and I'm writing the check, it makes sense to create an office space that is more efficient for the health department. You're able to, and I know this doesn't necessarily matter to the county, but it does, you know, I'm a state taxpayer too. They can combine operations on the health department side, and you don't have people crossing over the boundary. You move the dental clinic to its own side. It does need updating. They have to move the lab out from, when we dealt with COVID especially, you had your personnel that are checking in your clients are also operating in the same space where you're bringing in your lab equipment, doing all your dental equipment work in that particular room. I mean, that needs to be done. So from an efficiency standpoint, on both sides, I think it makes sense. I mean, I'm not into remodeling something for just cosmetic purposes.
Well, if I was loaning you money, that wouldn't sell me. Tell me, how many patients, I guess that's what I'm after. How busy is the dental? How many people do we serve?
I will have to get you that information. I've totally forgotten. So, I mean, I just have totally forgotten. I know that well, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I know they are full. I know they're seeing people all day. I know we just added, thanks to Budget Committee.
So they're busy
We
every day?
absolutely. In fact, we can see more people. We're also now eligible to see TennCare patients, and so we have modified the budget to recognize those revenues so that we could turn around and do more. mean, there are a lot of people in this county with dental needs. We also go into the schools. Now, we're not currently serving the county schools, but we are serving schools in the city of Oak Ridge. We've served the schools in the city of Clinton, and I think Anderson County has their own contract with an outside dentist. But we're seeing the school children here in the county as well.
But not at the dental building.
If they need follow-up care, yes, sir, they are coming to our building.
How long do you expect this renovation to last, as far as 5 years before you have to upgrade it again, or 10 years, or what do you see there in the future?
I don't really see anything in the future. I guess it would be normal. What's your normal wear and tear for maintenance? I would have to defer to Roger on a question like that. I do know that as part of this, we would like to get one additional chair. We have a compressor that is able to handle.
How many chairs we got now?
We have 3, and we would be adding another room.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Commissioner Smallridge.
Mayor, what is the state grant for the health portion of the?
349,000, and then there is another one that's 200 and something thousand that I just can't remember. But 100,000 of that is for an awning. So if there's another an emergency or an event that requires a drive up, part of that awning would be that there's electricity out there, so if it's in the winter, that there is an ability to do heaters out there for personnel or staff or National Guard, like there were during COVID, or air. And then also any kind of refrigeration or anything for vaccines. So.
And the bulk of that money is to do something that needs to be done in the health department.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
And we can't do that without moving the dental, is that correct?
Well, I think that's the preferred course for everyone involved. I mean, because you've got the dental clinic. So that building was, I think the county originally wanted to build a new building. What they did is purchase that building and renovate. And it was actually 3 separate medical offices. And so that's why it's laid out like it is, because it was never designed to be for the health department and the dental clinic. And so it was retrofitted to serve the needs. So this really irons out all of those maze issues.
Yeah, I guess I feel this is something that needs to be done, and this is a good time to do the whole thing together with the dental clinic.
Yep.
My opinion.
Any further discussion? Motion on the floor by Commissioner Bochamp is to approve up to $500,000 from the ARP funds, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
And Commissioner White, I will, and Mr. Chairman, I will make sure to have, I do have that data, and sometimes it goes into my mind, and then sometimes it doesn't, and I don't want to misspeak, but I'll get you those numbers that you asked for in terms of patient visits.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item.
Okay, Section D, it's the volunteer fire departments, ARP funds. It was deferred to commission to this committee. Again, Commissioner Mays made a motion to consider giving the county volunteer fire departments more money than the cities. Also, I handed out a handout to all you guys tonight for, that was approved in the fire commission. With the $50,000 that was approved, the procedure that we went back and listened to the tape, and the procedure we kind of came up with is for the volunteer fire departments to present their request for the funds, what they were going to use it for, to the fire commission, and then I'll bring it to the budget committee, and then we could cut them a check if that was sufficient. So I've included on the front a spreadsheet of each of the 8 that submitted their plan. Some are over 50, which we would only write a $50,000 check, but I assume they'll be using their own funds for the rest of it, but, it shows like Rossville Air Packs, Marlowe's gonna do a Station 3 project. Several radios on here, rescue tools for the rescue squad, and Oak Ridge wants to buy cardiac monitors. 3 haven't submitted, Clinton, Andersonville, and Claxton, but I feel like they will by next month, but, just seeking approval on this list and the others up for discussion as far as whatever you wanna do with Commissioner May's request.
Commissioner Wandell.
I make a motion to approve the 8 requests that have came in with the appropriate paperwork and presented it to Fire Commission. It passed unanimously, and it's been forwarded to this body. The funds have been set aside by the full commission, the last commission meeting, so the others will turn theirs in when they get the proper paperwork from their invoices and such. So there's 8 at this time, and I make a motion to approve those 8 to be paid.
Motion made by Commissioner Wandell to approve Section D. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any further discussion? Commissioner Smallridge.
Robbie, when they turn in a list like that, are they required to stick to that list completely?
Well, I was gonna ask that as a question. Once we give them those funds, would you like them to turn in where they, I mean, something showing that they purchased what they said? I mean, I don't know how far we wanna go with this, but.
No, it's a good question and good discussion. I think from what I heard it, and Commissioner Beauchamp was there as well, the fire chiefs are open to audits, and they can certainly make available additional paperwork showing the purchases if you like, but I did hear them say that they're open to, if any commissioners and mayor, whoever would like to come in and see what they've purchased, they'd be happy to share that. Chief Bailey, is that is there additional stuff that could be provided after the purchases are made to let this body know that the funds have been used appropriately?
So during fire commission, that was one of the discussions that come up, and after, especially like for some of the cities that are gonna be making these purchases as well, I mean, it's like a grant for us, so we do an audit every year. The volunteer fire departments do an audit every year. And it'd be like any other grant that I would foresee. So I have to keep the purchase requirements, what all I keep on file for the duration. So after we make the purchases, I mean, we're receiving the funds, we're cutting the POs ourselves, we'll pay out. As soon as we're paid out, we're more than welcome to turn in the required invoices afterwards.
Yeah,
Commissioner Smallridge.
my question was leading to the point that I think you all ought to have some flexibility.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Motion is to approve the $50,000 limit on the 8 that have properly submitted the paperwork. Motion was by Commissioner Wandell, seconded by Commissioner Wells. That's a total, of my Briceville arithmetic is correct, Robbie, 400,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried. Next item.
One more thing, the request Commissioner Mays made about maybe send that to the other committee as far as spending more ARP funds, for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that motion never passed.
I thought it would. So it didn't pass in commission?
No.
Not for discussion in budget. There wasn't a referral for that?
I think the motion was made by Commissioner Mays in full commission to increase the funding for the volunteer fire departments. But the motion that was on the floor was this original motion for 50,000 for each department. That amendment to that motion failed.
Okay.
So for us to carry it forward, I think wouldn't be prudent. If Commissioner Mays would like to make a new motion, he can certainly do so, and I'm sure this body and others will be happy to hear
No,
it.
I misunderstood, because I thought after the vote, he suggested that we go back to budget committee and discuss giving
I may be misunderstood myself, but I do not think that passed.
Okay, we'll move right on.
What I do recall is Commissioner Mays voted against it, any funding. So, you know, if he would like to make a motion to get more funding for the volunteer fire departments, as I say, certainly would love to see that motion. We'd entertain that motion and take it up. I will say this, as it relates to the municipalities. Municipalities are very, very appreciative I understand that we can analyze the money we give to Oak Ridge on the fire tower or this or that, but in the business of emergency readiness, it's important that we all work together. And I'm seeing that Mayor kind of spearheaded that, I'm gonna say 2 or 3 years ago, and she's been able to bring them all together. And I think our chairman has done it too, and he was the chairman of the fire commission. So I guess what I'm just trying to say, Oak Ridge City at the meeting wanted us to know that how much they appreciate it. So I see a lot of value in all of us just saying we're all equal, the city of Oak Ridge, Norris, all of that. So I'd prefer not to kind of analyze who got how much, and I'm not saying you're doing that, Robbie.
No, I don't.
But I see a lot of value in this, and I appreciate all the commissioners allowing this, and the mayor and everybody jumping in to make this happen. As we all know, we went away from a truck resolution, you know, and it's not there no more. So I think this is fair, and more importantly, I think the fire chiefs think it's fair, and they're very excited about it. I haven't heard any of them say, well, you know, this just isn't enough money. They're just tickled to get this amount and to continue business. There's been a lot of fire stuff going on around us every day, and it's an impact to our community. And again, the mayor brought this up at some of her meetings about how we can lower the cost for our constituents by having preparedness with our, and the mayor knows the term, I forget it, I'll butcher it, but it makes a lot of sense. So anyway, and I'll quit talking, I don't mean to talk at all, but I just want to thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Wandale. Moving on.
Okay, under Section E, it's all of y'all received an email from Dr. Parrott and for a request for, I'm just gonna let him talk about this.
So, it's always an honor to come. I was thinking in the 8 years I've been director of schools, I very seldom stand before you to ask for something. I really try as a school system to do it for ourselves. On a good note, we just paid $3 million for a building over in Claxton that we own outright, no loan or anything on it. It's been a long time coming. But as we do those things, and as you know, we have the school board has committed to building that school and completing the funding without coming and asking for a tax increase. We have looked, and I don't think we've ever built a school and not asked for a tax increase. And so we've been trying for almost 5 years. I look back and 6 years ago, we put Briceville and Dutch Valley wastewater plants on our long range capital projects. We looked for almost 3 years before we could even get anybody to even talk to us about it, because nobody likes to build a small sewer plant. They don't want to do anything about them. And as that time, the money has just went crazy. We did work with ESG, as you saw in the packet I sent you. Both Dutch Valley and Briceville sewer plants are beyond their life. They are, as we say on a wing and a prayer, we have a person that goes out there daily and checks them. The one at Briceville kind of does double duty. It goes for the Briceville Elementary School, and it also has the library on it when we built that. The bottom line is we need some help on this one time. We've got there's about $3 million we're going to have to spend. We've got to put safety glass, safety barriers on all of our schools, on our doors and our windows. We've got to have some type of panic button that we can infiltrate with 911, and there's this project. And here's the thing is, they're both important, but if I'm looking at one, I have to figure out I have to do safety before I do sewer plants. But if a sewer plant goes down, we can't have school. So it's a catch-22. So again, I'm coming to you asking for to fund the 2 sewer plants. I think when me and Robbie talked, that is something you could fund out of that restricted that more restricted money that you have. I sent you all also where we've spent our money at. We could only spend to a certain point for capital projects, and we exceeded that. We've got that right up to the point. We had to pay about $400,000. I think that's what it was out of our regular budget to complete the one up at Norris. So we were at that point that we couldn't do anything else. So, again, I like to handle things in-house. We hope to, we are gonna start on the maintenance side of looking at Claxton School. We hope out of our fund balance and out of our regular budget, as we're working on that school, to fund another about $2 to $3 million over the next 2 to 3 years for that. Because every $1 million that we don't borrow money for saves us $1 million. So when you borrow $1 million, you pay back $2 million. So if we can take $5 million off of Claxton School, that saves us $10 million. So all of the rest of the stuff is in good shape. We just need some help with some sewer plants.
Any discussion? Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Parrott, these wastewater system upgrades, is there any opportunity to get grants from the state for, you know, I don't know, has there been discussions with the mayor on this? I'm just curious.
We talked about it, yes.
Yep. You know, as far as the school goes, Claxton, I'd like to, I appreciate where we're at, but I definitely want to know where we're going and how that looks over time. You know, I don't really, and I know we just purchased the property. I don't expect you to have plans today and say, here's what it is.
We're meeting with architects next week to start the preliminary drawings and things like that, to just start talking to them. We'll start having community meetings and everything here in the next. We hope to have a pretty good idea. We will be bringing a resolution to the school board and county commission next month from about the USDA loan that we're looking to see to get.
If it's okay, when you have meetings like that, I'd like for myself and Commissioner Mays to be present, not to change anything, but to just be able to listen in and hear what's going on so we can give feedback to the community. It would be helpful. I know I'm not in town a lot, and I'll probably miss the meeting anyway, but I'd certainly like to be invited to those.
You're on my chain to when we have that meeting.
So back to your request. Dr. Parrott, I understand where you're coming from. I'll have to agree with you. You've not really come up in front of this body much and never asked for much. You know, Briceville, Dutch Valley, they need this attention. I guess if it's not going to be a septic system, is it going to be an internal sewer system?
So the one at Briceville has to be, it'll be a full-fledged sewer plant.
Okay.
It will be the tanks in the ground, the whole 9 yards. They both are like that now. The one at Dutch Valley, we can move it to more of a pressurized, I call it a pressurized, field line on steroids, I guess. But it's one of them that won't have to be monitored as much. The one at Briceville will still have to be monitored, just for the way the land is there, and there's not a lot of room at Briceville Elementary School to do that. The good thing about Dutch Valley is we do have a lot more property there, and they can run it back through the trees and stuff like that. And this has been, we started with ESG over a year. It's been about a year and it's took them that long to just get permits and get all those things. And so we were actually out of compliance, and they come in and helped us get back in compliance. The person that was checking all of these things, he passed away, and nobody else is out there that can do these. So those are things that all have just kept creeping up.
So, Mayor, were you in favor of this or support of this, or this? I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Here's the chance, Mayor.
One thing I want to add.
Yeah, I'm listening.
From, me and John discussed this quite a bit, because using the other eligibilities money, we have more restrictions. I'm not so sure this project would not have to go out to bid.
It would have to.
And John agrees with that, so I'm not sure we can just turn this over to ESG.
Right.
They may be the only one that bids, I mean, based on Dr. Parrott's, reaching out over years to try to get people, look at this, it's possible they would be the only one to bid, and then it could get awarded to them, but it would still have to go through the full bid process. Even if it wasn't with the, more restricted funding, with this much money, it would still have to go out to bid, anyway, if it's using ARP money, whether it's restricted or not.
Okay.
And I'm not against this at all, but I just want to remind you all that we are also using the county a USDA loan for an animal shelter. So that we can pay also on, that saves us money, or saves the general fund money. When you pay $1 million, you save $1 million. So just, I would keep that in mind as well with.
But did we get the animal shelter
Yes.
loan? I thought.
Sure did.
My knee keeps buckling. Yes, we did get, I heard from Kirk that the USDA did set the funds aside, so now I have to go through the whole process with Finance Committee and getting Jay to review a bunch of documents, and then that has to all come to you all, so.
Yeah. What was that total amount roughly?
It's 5.9, but that includes if we borrow, that includes interest, the whole cost of everything, so. To your question, Commissioner Wandell, I mean, if I support this, I love Dr. Parrott. It's very complicated. It really is very complicated. So exactly what he says makes 100% sense. I also know that the schools have a very, very healthy fund balance, but I also hear what he's saying about trying to fund a Claxton school. The other things that are important here are you have two schools that really are on the chopping block in terms of student attendance. They are two schools that the school board, I know definitely the school board has looked at one in terms of, being on the block for consolidating and sending those students somewhere else. And, this is a much, and I don't want to just talk too much here, but you asked me my opinion on it, but there are things that you have to weigh when you all are the governing body. And does it make economic sense to close Bryceville, for instance, and send those students to Lake City and Lake City Middle and Elementary? On paper, from monetary standpoint, yes, but what are the intangibles of losing a school in your community? And the same for Dutch Valley. And, there's a lot of costs that also all of a sudden hit your community in terms of what that school does. And I think Bryceville is one of those great examples where you see that the school is the community center, is the fundraising location, is the place where they go. We had our largest, the CDBG folks for the state of Tennessee, when we were working on the broadband grant, we set a record. It was like 100 people came out to Bryceville Elementary for a CDBG public hearing, which never happens. It's usually you and the grant administrator, and you're sitting there. And I'm bringing that up because those are all, it's hard for me to say, am I for it? Am I for it? No. I think the schools should get it from their own fund balance, because I still see a ton of needs on our side. But I very much hear what Dr. Parrott's saying. And, I wish we had more of a putting it in. I know Dr. Parrott reached out to me. I actually took a vacation. I haven't taken vacation since the summer of 2019, and I said, I'm sorry, Dr. Parrott. I really would like to see on paper, okay, let's show you what this can do for interest, because when you look at the county's position, you all aren't so much making a decision for the schools, but our net position is impacted by the schools, as they're the majority of our funding, the majority of our expenditures, and if you look at the majority of the debt, it's the schools. So, you know, I mean, maybe it's something where Dr. Parrott can get you a little more detail on. He's telling you $1 million, maybe, I know he wants to meet with Scott Gibson, our financial guy. I think from that standpoint, it makes sense. But I also see that we're down to like the last $3 million, and that's a really tough call. So would you take half? Can we do a live negotiation? Well, to that point, I mean, there's been a lot of other sports projects too, and other things that have come in front of these projects. So, you know, those are things, I'll say the things that I know some commissioners are thinking.
Well, that was gonna be a contingency on my vote.
Oh, on a softball
And I hate to
field.
do it, but that's what it would be. It'd be the softball field at Clinton High School would have to be committed to be done, completed, not just the field, not just.
We already have the funds set aside for the softball field.
So, but will it be done
Yes,
before the season starts?
Yes.
Like November? Will it be done? What's that?
Official start of the season's in February, I'm told, on those sports.
So, but is it gonna be the field, or will it be the field and the buildings?
well, the field and the building's already, we already have a PO for the building, we're just waiting on to get the lights done before we can start on the building, and then starting on the building, they're working on, there's a lot of red tape you have to do if you're gonna reroute a creek, to drive through the creek to get the sewer and water.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to get off subject, but that's, for me, I'll support whatever this body wants to do, but I wanna see the softball field get done.
They are funds, the funds are set aside in that to complete the softball field.
With all due respect, we set the funds aside, what, 3 years ago? I can't remember, but it's been, and it's not your fault, I get it. Somebody has been a thorn in our side, and I get it, you know, whatever.
Well,
But
and
at the end of the day, we still have no softball field, and I know you hear it, but, you know, I look at, I think Commissioner Wells said this, I try to look at things from a perspective in, you know, in Knox County, they had to build softball fields for the girls. And they were made to build the softball for the girls because it seems as if the girls weren't getting their needs met. And I know no one wants to hear about Title IX or whatever the title number is, but the fact is, the ones that are suffering in this town for the softball field are them girls. And they've done nothing wrong, and they just keep getting dealt a pretty raw hand, and I just don't know how we can't break through. What's it take to make that a priority and make it get done? Not, you know, because I'm fearful what we're going to hear is the field will be ready, and it's going to be a field with a chain link fence around it and dirt piled all around it. And I don't think that's fair. I think it needs to be a commitment from the school that this field will be done. The buildings, the whole enchilada will be completed, and these girls will have a brand new facility ready to go. And if I could hear that, it'd make me feel better.
Listen, that's our plan, that's where we put the funding in, that's why we've got a manager that's overseeing this project now that is making sure everything's gonna be done. We had to wait a week on moving the lights are moved now, they should be finished today. Just as soon, like I said, T-Dot is Michael Brady and them are working with the state, with the wastewater people. So a lot of that stuff is taking a lot longer because we had a complaint lodged against us about wastewater.
Right.
So it has cost us a lot more funding and a lot more time to dig through that. It's not just a stamp off. They have to have somebody on site every day and things like that. But
I'd like to participate in any meetings that just set in. I like to listen to those meetings when you have them. If I don't have to be at every one, but I'd like to kind of listen in. But, Mr. Chairman, I apologize getting off track. So, you heard the mayor mention half. Is that something you'd entertain?
I mean, listen, you're all the funding body, whatever you give me, I'm gonna take.
I'm gonna be quiet and I'm gonna listen to my other colleagues here.
Commissioner Bochamp.
I'm a little concerned, I'm like the mayor, and I was gonna bring that up, I've heard the rumors over the years, Dutch Valley's gonna close, Brosville's gonna close, now we got a proposal for these two schools in front of us, and I get the need, but I'm also scared that we're gonna pay out $1.5+ million, and the school's gonna close, and we're gonna say, oh geez, we shouldn't have spent that money. So I'm kinda worried about that in the sense of, attendance has gone down. I'm from that area. I had to go right past Brosville School and go to Lake City Middle School, so it's not that too far out of the way. I had to do it every day. So that's one of my concerns in this amount of money. It's a big amount of money. Again, I'm gonna make the motion that we went this long, we could go another month, and I think this is something a commission as a whole probably needs to talk about, and I'd like to see this go to the strategic planning committee, so we can talk about it more in depth. Are we gonna give you half? Are we gonna give you the full? Where's it gonna come from? Are we gonna ask you to get a loan? I think that's stuff that we need to address more as a whole body, and if we're gonna put this planning committee together, I think that's the proper place to do it, because this is important to the schools, but it's also, I don't wanna deplete the ARPA funds, because that's gonna deplete it if we give you the whole amount. So I think we all gotta put our heads together and figure out what's the best plan for the two schools, and you can let us know, do you foresee that the school, I don't wanna put you on the spot now, but.
I can tell you this, when I gave my report to the feasibility study to the board did not take action on it. They said that they did not want Briceville closed at that point. To me, it was over and done with. We're moving on. There's 114 students at Briceville, and there's 114 students at Dutch Valley. There's no plans, as long as I'm director, to ever bring it back up again.
Okay.
So
I wanna make sure that we're all on the same, I want it to happen. I mean, we don't want a disaster happen and it go out to the whole community and then we have an even worse problem. But at the same time, we've gotta figure out what the best plan to give you funds and how much we're gonna give you. And not deplete everything else for the projects we've gotta do in the county, cause we still got a lot of things that we need to accomplish here. So I think maybe putting it over to the strategic planning meeting so we all as a whole can have an opinion and put our heads together of what we're gonna do.
Motion made by Commissioner Bochamp to refer the decision to the strategic planning workshop. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Vandegrift. Any discussion on the motion?
Okay, so I would just ask for that if, at that strategic planning workshop, no action be taken, assuming everybody says, yeah, we're in favor or we're against it, it'll
Still
come
gotta
back to
come
budget.
back to us. That's correct. Yeah,
Perfect.
any workshops just for discussion, information gathering.
And just as commissioners, to piggyback on what you said, if there were an emergency, it's spelled out, you all have the money to take care of this problem on your own at this point, correct?
If we did, yes.
Okay, excellent. So it's not on commission for not acting today, well, I just wanted to be on the record, so.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White.
sadly, Dutch Valley is growing. Our community, the big farms are gone. And, a lot of folks from California or wherever is moving into Dutch Valley and building homes, and some of them are bringing and having babies. So we anticipate Dutch Valley School being there.
Long time.
I've been on commission, I guess, almost 20 years, and that was one of our goals, was to keep Dutch Valley School going. I'm not against the motion, but I'd like to see this budget committee, I'd like to see us vote on this today and approve this amount to where that we could get, that the schools could get an idea of, and send this project forward. Dutch Valley needs this wastewater plant, for the sewer system, for septic system, and Briceville does also. And with the library up there at Briceville, there's a great need. So, I'm not against your motion, I'd just like to see us, settle this today. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No?
6-1, motion carries. October 26 and 27.
Thank you.
I have a, Dr. Parrott?
Yes.
On your security upgrades, I wasn't clear, are you have funding in place for those, or are you anticipating funding coming from the state?
No, we got a $280,000 safety grant for that, but we will have to take the rest of that out of fund balance.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just think the, you know, the idea of.
Well, when you think about it, it's at 10 million, but there's about 4 million of that we can't spend, so it.
Yeah, I just thought the film on the windows and the doors and the button for a teacher in the classroom to be able to signal, there's a problem directly in that classroom, or they have some information that there needs to be a shutdown. To be able to do that, I think is great. I really think those are important safety issues.
Thank you all, appreciate you.
Next item.
Section F, Commissioner Wandell requested this be on the Budget Committee. I worked with Annette to get a breakdown for each commissioner. It matches the total we have exactly left in the funds, which is $30,367.04. I don't know what questions you have, but this is for the solid waste contributions that each commissioner gets, $750 each year.
Okay. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So here, I'm just looking at this now, I apologize. So looking at the 22-23 balance.
Yes, sir.
And this is, what you're saying is, Annette was able to go back and look at those districts that may not have spent those funds previously, and those funds were moved over.
Not like that, no.
Okay, I'm listening.
Here's what happened. This is the way, so $19,347 was left at the end of 22-23 in those funds that was in the restricted code, moved to that balance. So of the 8 incumbents that the commissioners that had been here before, 14,280 were already in their budget. They hadn't spent yet. That left a total of $5,067. We divided that amongst the new 8 commissioners, which was a balance of $633.38 each to carry over from prior year. And theirs increased as well. The new year, $750, leaving a balance of $1,383.38.
So
some commissioners left zero when they were,
right.
Didn't run again. Some
right.
had. So we decided just to take that remaining balance and divide it amongst the new all 8 commissioners.
All right, so the available balance, what we're looking at is what we can use now if we have a project. Commissioner White has enough to almost do the sewage project at Dutch Valley himself. Just kidding, Commissioner White.
Mr. Wandell, if any commissioner needs any of that, I have no plans for any of it. So holler at me.
No, I was just kidding with you.
I know.
I love Dutch Valley too. I have grandchildren going there now, and I'm glad that it's still open.
That's a beautiful campus.
For nothing but positive things is all
Yes.
I've heard. But anyway, I appreciate it. So basically, Mr. Chairman, the way I'm looking at this, we have these balances before us, broken down for each commissioner. These funds are funds that we can use to fulfill requests at our various schools within our district, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're all good with the money here, and it's okay if if I wanted to spend my entire amount and I got the right request, I mean, I can't just go spend it.
We've already received the $12,000 check from Waste Management for this year's funds. So the funds are there. Y'all can spend, however you see fit.
Thank you for doing
I think
that.
those requests have to always come before commission, don't they, anyway?
Yes, that's right, that's right.
As a matter of fact.
Usually go through consent agenda.
Yeah.
And, Well, I appreciate you doing this
No
and,
problem.
and bringing us up to speed. This is.
I mean, I don't mind sending a copy of this.
Thank
It'll be in our budget minutes, but
Yep.
we could also I could send a copy of this to every commissioner, so that way they know their balance, the other ones that aren't on the budget committee. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Thank you again. Thank you. Mr.
Yes, sir. Any new business? Any old business? We are adjourned.